Hey, fabulous friends. Welcome to this episode. I'm going to call it a dose of Daejah. I am
Oh,
a dose of Daejah. I am so honored to have my guest here. It is hard enough for most of us to talk about mental health. It's hard enough to talk about mental health in front of people. It's also hard enough talking about mental health in front of people we don't know. And
mhm.
when I became certified for NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, I became a presenter, and I was honored to have a young presenter who is joining me today, Daejah Pierre-Jules, who blows my mind. Your vulnerability, your strength, your story, your passion. You when I met you 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I was in awe listening to you talk about what has happened to you, what you
Mhm.
feel, and how you keep going, and the hope that you have given people. And I believe every platform that I can get attached to and, spread the message is absolutely a remarkable place to be. So thank you for being here, Daejah, really. If in a nutshell, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm sure. Well, thank you for that incredible introduction. Hi, my name is Daejah Pierre-Jules. I am 22 years old. I'm a recent grad from Florida Atlantic University. I currently work in my field. I'm a speech language pathologist assistant. In the days that I'm not working, I enjoy anything performing arts related. I like to do spoken word poetry. Um, what else do I like to do? I like to go to shows, spend time with friends and family, relax, and sleep and
Prioritize
eat.
that.
Um, and I'm myself.
Now, looking at you, you'd be at the mall and you would walk by you and say, this girl has her shit together, basically. And
Mhm,
never know underneath, if we were to unzip Deja
mhm,
on the inside,
mhm.
how would you tell us, describe, if somebody were to ask you about your mental health journey, where can we start? And because people would never know by looking at you.
Yeah, yeah, you can't judge a book by its cover. I My mental health journey started longer before I recognized it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I went ahead when I was about 13 is when I had my first ever episode. I didn't know what it was. I don't want to give you guys the whole spiel of what I talk about in my presentations per se, but when I was I'm sorry?
No, I love it because somebody's
Mhm.
listening. They're probably saying, "Wait, me too." So anything that
Yeah.
you don't have to censor anything. This is it's gold. It's mental health gold
Mhm.
right here. So anything you want to say.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I had my first episode when I was 13. In retrospect, I didn't understand what it was that I was experiencing. I looked at it as something like a hiccup. And when I look back, it was the start of a season in my life that was very, very rocky. As a teenager, I was very emotional. I was very sensitive. I was almost like untamed in a way. When I couldn't control my emotions, I didn't know what was happening, and I think a
How
lot of that. Oh, go ahead.
like a lot of people say, "Oh, well, teenagers, they're
Mhm,
emotional anyway." For people listening, how they could say, "Well, my child's very gets very deep and locks
mhm.
themselves in their room," to pay more attention, right? I think it went
Yeah.
longer than 2 weeks with you, if I'm not.
Yes, it was like my entire freshman year of high school.
Oh,
Um, the entire year, I can't even, if I will be honest, it was my entire 4 years in high school that I struggled. I
wow.
really, really struggled when it came to just containing that emotion. I would cry uncontrollably. I had these outbursts, these really like nasty outbursts. And it really affected those around me. And I still see those effects to this day, but I feel like it's a lot more under control with therapy and
Awareness.
outlets and things
Yeah.
like that. But when I said earlier that like um, it started earlier than I could imagine. I myself, I wouldn't say a survivor, but
You
I
are.
have, thank you. Well, I guess you would say a survivor of sexual abuse, verbal abuse, neglect to some extent. And I it didn't take a toll until I became a teenager. You get what I'm saying? And I'm so grateful for those, what would you call them? Role models or people around me who
That
really
showed
vouched
you.
for me that it was possible. You know what I mean?
Yep.
My mom, my therapist, my teachers at school, something I didn't come forward about until I was about like 16, that's sexual abuse. Um, and yeah, so that was something that really took a toll on
Yeah,
me. Does
it's
that answer your question?
yeah, no, more
Mhm,
than enough because you are so brave and adults to this day, they're like, "Oh, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me," or "I'm fine."
mhm,
For you to be such a young girl to be aware is such a God's blessing because
mhm,
nobody wants to recognize it. And I tell people physical health is the same as our mental health. In fact,
mhm,
suppressing my 47 years at the time, I'm 54 now, of trauma, I believe gave me leukemia because I never
mhm,
addressed it. I wish I would have had your head on my shoulders. Well, then I
mhm,
would have had this experience to be here. But I
mhm,
know I went my whole life. Am I crazy, lazy, stupid? Not
mhm,
aware. Like the diagnosis didn't change anything. It just helped me recover and understand why the behaviors are as such.
mhm.
And
Go ahead.
oh no, no, that's okay. I'm done.
Okay. I myself, I got diagnosed with generalized anxiety
Hmm.
disorder, and oh, sorry. I got diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, um, situational depression, and ADHD.
Hmm.
And those diagnoses, they were hard to accept because you know when you receive something that you don't understand, it's very much like, oh my God, what's happening? I went to straight panic mode. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, I
But if I
did.
could, I'm sorry.
I lived it. I was 47, so my
Mm,
anger was just. So I hear you completely.
yeah. And I think it was so important. If I can go back in time and just give myself a hug, it's like,
Oh,
sweetie, this is the start of this is the end of a new beginning. Again, if that makes any sense. Like this is
great.
the start of something beautiful. And I look at it.
This just wall right here I keep because we all
Mm,
crumble. But when you put yourself back together, you illuminate even brighter. And that's what
oh.
you're like one of my disco balls. Because you're right. If we don't fall down, how else
Mhm,
can we heal and pick ourselves back up? You can't.
mhm,
So it's so good in a weird way that you
mhm.
feel the way you did. And
Yeah.
to pick yourself back up and not turn out to be the angry. Like you and I beat the odds. We could have made a right and gone into drugs. We could have become
Yeah.
violent. We could have been God knows what. We went the other way and we didn't let it affect us to make us angry. We took accountability. Okay, this is what
Mhm,
happened to me. I didn't ask for it, but now we can heal ourselves and this is what we have. And the
mhm,
compassion and the empathy we have for others is
mhm.
so minute compared to the angry people that are walking around. And
Yeah. And
it's
no, thank you for saying that. I think you just kind of opened the door in me because
um,
in my family, those are my family, those members, the angry, the
yeah,
addicted. And I, upon receiving that diagnosis, I didn't know how to not be like them. You get what I'm saying? I think that's what led to a lot of my anxiety as a child, wanting different, feeling powerless, but not necessarily knowing how my scars, I heard this saying, my scars are stars.
oh,
Okay.
oh,
And those
oh,
events in my childhood, they they really made me blossom. And I had to learn like it's okay to fall down, but it's always a lesson. That makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
tell people let it out, but don't unpack it, but don't stay there forever like a trip.
Mm,
Okay, 2 nights. Now I'm gonna unpack my suitcase and leave with
mm,
people's emotions. I didn't leave my house months, my bedroom months, my bathroom floor months, crying, and I was shamed. Get the f up. What's wrong with you? You're an animal. And when I became diagnosed with ADHD, OCD, anxiety, depression, everything
mm,
A to Z alphabet soup, basically.
mhm,
I took medication for the first time. And when I took Adderall, the anger that infused in me that my life could have been, I have been in a fog all of these years. It really,
mhm,
but nobody understood that I was supposed to get angry. So my family just saw me as an angry person now. So now
Yeah.
that I find out something's wrong with me, now they're hating me for it. If I'm
Mhm.
crying, we're going to call the police. I'm like, we need hugs, not handcuffs. And
Mhm.
people think if you're breaking down like you had years ago, there was a
Yeah.
there was a trigger. It wasn't you're a bad person, we're going to call the police on you. And
Yeah.
there needs to be more compassion with that. And there's
Mhm. And you yes, yes, you're preaching right now. And you brought up a really good point with, like, medication. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had in the mental health community. There's a lot of misconceptions, about that. I myself do take medication for it, and it really does help stabilize you, but I always say that medication is the step, not a solution. You
oh,
can't
it's true.
it medication alone will not change your life. You have the power to do that. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
100%. That's like saying me meeting a certain girlfriend, being friends with her is going to make me feel cool. No, it all
Yeah.
comes from within. There's no
Uh-huh.
outer sources for validation, whatever it is. No, absolutely
Mhm.
makes sense. And with medication, I had a client the other day, and she was a college girl, and she can't sleep at night, severe anxiety. And I said, "Have you reached out, for some medicinal help, medication?" She said, "No, I don't believe in it. My family doesn't believe in it. It feels like a personal failure." And I'm like, "No, it doesn't. Why should you walk around anxious or with a heavy heart if you don't have to? It's not like a light switch where, there's
Yeah,
medicine and I'm all better. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's a
it is.
lifelong. I mean,
It's a
every
marathon.
marathon, every minute
Mhm.
I'm awake, it's like staying in the moment. If I get triggered, now I know. Oh, now I know why I'm scrunched
Mhm.
up and angry. I can't be claustrophobic or sensory issues with my tight clothes. Everything
Mhm.
makes sense when you're aware. And most people don't want to take accountability. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
fine. There's nothing wrong with me. And that's where it's okay not to be okay. And people
Amen.
don't understand that. It is so
Mhm.
okay not to be okay. And I preach it and I talk about mental health like the weather. Like it's going to rain tomorrow. You're going to the parade. Oh, I have major, anxiety right now and that's why I'm
I
talking,
love that.
right? I make it
Mhm.
so conversational. Like I think I should come with a trigger warning sometimes because I
Mhm.
so open about mental health and everything. Like
I
get anxiety, right? Like who doesn't
right.
get this or something?
Yeah, I love that you said I talk about mental health like the weather. I think a lot of people in society mistaken that as oversharing, and I disagree. It's like we are human. We are not islands. We
Right.
are all, and I think, I can't talk about mental health and not talk about social media.
Oh,
Because I feel like we all front to an extent.
yep.
We all have on our masks. Um,
Hmm.
and it's okay to kind of, now I won't say be a martyr, but like, put yourself out there in the sense that like, if I can do it, someone else would have the courage to do it as well. And I
Pitbull
always,
was
hmm
inspiring for me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Cease my
it's okay.
Pitbull. He said, "If there's no door, build one." I was like,
Hmm
"Okay," and it was just those words. Just he's right. Nobody's going to create it, so let me just build my door and start doing my thing. And
Love
which
that.
was mental health, which I never thought in a million years I would ever talk about, but it's become so second nature. Like I'm going to Publix and I'm having a panic attack right now and I couldn't sleep last
Hmm
night. And people, the stigma, unfortunately, when you watch the news, anytime there is a mass shooting or something bad, they go, well, they had a mental illness. And I want
hmm
to scream and say, no, they had unhealed mental illness, not treated by a doctor. It's unhealed.
Yeah.
Don't make it like it's a bad thing. Oh, well, they have mental
mm
illness because it's not. It's
Yeah.
you're either woo totally crazy or you're bad, and they don't give
mm
enough for the everyday people like you and I
mm
to talk about it. It's easy.
Yeah.
There's such shame, and I don't get it. I guess I do get it, but because I'm so passionate about it and the way I
mm
speak, it amazes me that people are still so shut down about it. I guess is a good
Yeah. The stigma
stigma.
is very, um, it's very disheartening.
Yes.
But I myself, in my free time, I felt like this is important to bring up, but I am a mentor for children in foster care.
Oh,
Something, like I said, I never thought I'll see myself doing this, but I'm so glad I did. And just hearing the stories of these people, you know, or
oh,
these children, the youth under 18, and it's like we need, and how do I put this? if someone doesn't help, it's almost like it would never get done, if that makes any sense.
Of course it is.
And I think it's so important to help those who don't have the same opportunities, like someone like me who had like a mom, things that I take for granted. You get what I'm saying?
I don't believe
And
that is
mhm,
in my situation. Again, I'm so
mm,
sorry I cut you off. I
it's
should.
okay. Don't apologize.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
When I was 17, my mother I had already had trauma up until this point with just
Hmm.
absentee fathers and moving all around. But my mother at 17, when I was 17, she became
Hmm.
addicted to crack in
Hmm.
1987. And I was left with all my belongings in a car on Hollywood Boulevard and I-95 at the gas station. And she drove away. And no family members wanted me. So I needed
Wow.
to be who I needed as a little girl, which is a mentor for someone in I wasn't in foster care and I would have been better off probably. I went
Hmm.
house to house for people. Can I stay with you? Can I live with you? None of my family wanted me, and I ended up living on a floor with a guy that used to beat the shit out of me. And
Wow.
so I've had suppression my entire life and took that into my grown-up years, all unhealed. So
Hmm.
that's when all of my breakdowns and healing I know is going to help so many others in starting this conversation. I
Yeah. I'm very sorry that is something that you had to go through. I don't want to like just go past that.
no, I talk about
Mm.
like I went, like I said, like I'm going to go to Jackson's for ice cream, and I was left on the road when I was 17. Right there. So it's so
Okay.
conversational at this point. I know.
No, I completely understand that. And it's so important for individuals to like run their own race because look at you now. You know what I'm saying? You didn't let that stop you. And I would give myself some credit too. Like me talking about my sexual abuse,
Oh, come on.
nobody knew. And I would just like outburst. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? Outburst. And it was starting to become like a disruptive thing until I sat down with somebody. And that's what I was saying. Like I had teachers in high school. I went to school down in, um, it's on County Line, Michael Crop.
right. Yeah, I grew
Love
up
it.
right down the street, right at
Oh,
Highland Road.
wow.
So
Wow.
so you were in the same backyard. Like
Yes.
like bullying was right there on Ives Dairy Road.
Wow, wow, I love that. And my dance teacher at the time, she sat me down, she looked at me, and I just broke down. I just broke down. And it's crazy to think that somebody like knew. I
Yeah,
thought that I was an island. You get what I'm saying?
you're not alone. You're never alone, and
And
anyone
it's
listening knows they're not alone.
especially like, being an African American woman, I had my now therapist, she told me this statistic that broke my heart. And I also put it in one of my poems. She said, Black girls, 1 in 4 Black girls are sexually assaulted before age 18.
Oh,
And I heard that and I was like, what?
mm, gut wrenching.
What?
Yep,
And similar to you, I wanted to be what I didn't have. I
yep,
didn't have someone to have those conversations with. I didn't have someone um, talking to me where it was like an open space. You get
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like you would never be judged, you will always be loved. And I
Oh,
tried to give back to my community and do that.
you're so brave, and I bet people.
Mm,
I mean, you have this angelic aura about you anyway. But
thank you.
it's to have. I mean, the minute I saw you on Facebook, I was like, oh my god, I wanted to do this a few years ago, but I was
Mm,
no healthy place to even talk, let alone
mm,
any of this. But this conversation, it's starting to rumble a little bit, and
mm,
mental health is starting to get more noticed. And we are the
mm,
masses of the world. I mean, there'll always be Beyonce and everything else, but the people that are brave enough to say, look, it's okay not to be okay. We're not robots. You're not supposed to be
mm,
happy all the time. You're just supposed to live. And like you said, staying in your own lane is you don't compare. And that's like with social media. I do not care what she's doing there or what she's doing there. And I just need to be the best version of Marni as you need to be
mm.
the best version of Daejah. That's all that matters.
And it's better that way. It's better
So
that
much.
way.
The best weight anyone can lose is the opinion of what other people think of you. It doesn't matter.
Mm,
Who cares? Get it away. Yeah.
yeah.
It does not matter.
And for me in my personal life, I learned that when I started to look at my life as a fingerprint or a snowflake, if
Yeah.
you will, things started to work out.
They do.
when I had this question asked me, they when I was doing my interview to become like a mentor for the foster youth, the woman asked me, she said, "What's one word that would describe your childhood?" And I said, "Treasure."
Ooh.
Treasure. And I use that word specifically because it said one, you know, the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yep.
As a child, I looked everywhere else but where I was at.
Oh,
And
ooh.
then when I got older, I look back, I had so many gems. It was trauma. I had trauma, don't get me wrong, but I had a lot of blessings. And I
Oh,
feel like
it's so with
mhm,
all the trauma, you're right, that we did have, I learned about being glamorous, how,
mhm,
go certain places, live a certain lifestyle. I was taught
mhm,
at a young age. So we may be
mhm.
crazy in my genes, but we come from glamour, so I take all of the good with every
Mhm,
situation and with me. So every episode in life, people we meet, it's just pick up the whatever we learned and
mhm,
take it with us. So at 54, my life's just beginning, and all the
mhm,
roadmaps were supposed to take me right here, this moment, talking to you.
mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
really people when I know they struggle, and I know it's internal because you want the universe to answer your questions right now. Why are they not writing me back? And where's that
Mhm,
email? And we're losing out on this moment worrying about something out of our control. So
mhm.
living in the moment is just so important to my healing because I don't let myself get too that way or too this way.
Yeah, just regulating.
Big.
I think I was just telling my mentee, and I was also reminding myself, I said, there's only two things we need to be worried about is what we can control and
Yep.
how we react.
Yep. It's all in
That's
our
it.
hands. We could
And we can't overcomplicate it. We
preach
can't
it.
overcomplicate it.
Nope, you're right. Somebody could cut you off in traffic and you say, okay, let him in. Or you could say, go to it. How
Yeah.
you choose. I choose not to infest my body and react
Mhm,
anymore because why? All I was doing is banging my head against a tree or a wall.
mhm,
All I was doing is getting the amount of, I tell people, use your emotions like a debit card daily. And my allotment, I've already wasted it by 8 o'clock most of the time on things that were
mhm,
out of my control. I need my energy. So it's not important
mhm,
anymore to prove myself or to be right about something and argue. It's not worth it. If somebody says something, okay, whatever, no,
mhm.
okay, and it's
Amen.
so much easier, right? Oh
Yeah.
my God,
You feel lighter, literally.
so much lighter. It's like a huge weight lifted off your shoulders again. So
Mhm.
this was this I love today. This was really. Can we do daily doses of Deja like once a week or something like that? One whenever you're
I
just
Of
text me,
course.
I come on and talk about something.
Mhm. Of course, of course. I have this segment on my TikTok, which is very inconsistent. I'm not that big of a social media person, but I would call it the word of the day, DAE, and I would just say how I feel. I'm
Oh,
like, not
I
every
will
day
have
is going to be a
that.
good day.
I want to take all of your phrases from scars to stars, everything. You speak fluent I like legit. I no wonder I am so drawn like to your energy
Mhm,
and stuff. I think you are.
mhm.
You're 22 years old. You blow my mind.
Thank you.
Really do. And
Thank
I'm
you.
so proud of you. And I know you're going to continue to shine and inspire. And really, this episode today is so needed with all the anger in the world. You don't have
Mhm.
to walk around angry. Let it go, but not on other people. Heal
Yeah.
yourselves, and it'll be
Amen.
a happier world. So thank you
Amen.
so much for being here today, Deja. I really appreciate it. And you are just a doll baby.
Thank you. You too.
Alrighty, so have a fabulous weekend, and thank you so much for being here on Fabulously Flawed.
Thank you. Thank you for having
You
me.
got it. Alrighty, sweetheart.